took over web applications development when it was at an all-time low, satisfaction of 36%. That's what killed it, really. And I've had some excellent students come through, satisfaction up to 86%. That's what I do at the moment. I teach coding, I look after the web apps people, I look after some of the modules in the final stage, and I'll talk to you a bit about the changes that we've got coming out. So introducing me. Okay, I didn't come to academia earlier. I wasn't one of those career academics that went through school, went through university. In fact, I always used to think I was too thick to do a degree. And I did go into that as a mature person. I have worked in industry. I taught myself to program in the days of Delphi. I did Delphi. I then moved into C#, C++. Taught myself the web languages. And it was my boss who said, well, why don't you actually do something logical about this, Shirley, because you're just going to be wasted. Most people just got P45, but he was trying to be constructive. I've worked in industry for small and big companies. I've worked for the NHS. I've worked in teams, big teams. I've worked in small teams. I have worked in that environment where the salespeople have got really enthusiastic about the software that they're going to sell, and they haven't really spoken to the developers who've got to actually create it. Some of you may relate to this. The client has been promised the moon and how to get there without any interaction with the people who've got to create the software to get to work. That got me interested in how projects are managed. How do people interact? How did I, as a developer, start to contribute to that team to make something happen? Now, I have been in academia now for 10 years, and so the Agile movement, as we all know, wasn't as prominent. It wasn't prominent then. It didn't have the term Agile. There were aspects there that were coming through. But I always knew that it didn't help having that separation of the developers from the people who needed to use the software. And I saw for myself that developing successful software really required you to understand what the people needed to have it, to do with it. And I got frustrated with the attitude to testing. Oh yeah, just bang it over the fence, the testers will sort it out and then send it back. Oh actually no, we haven't got time for that, just ship it. So it's good to see now we're moving forwards. There's lessons being learned, and it's good to see that the Agile movement is going, do you know what, we need to do this in a robust and thorough way. What I wanted to think about was teaching Agile. How do we do that? We've got to get to a point where students suddenly get it. We need to ensure that students contribute immediately to the workplace. Whether it's in their second year, straight after second year, after they've done placement, whether it's coming straight out of graduating, how can they start to contribute? How do they get to understand principles, certainly for Agile project management, but without them losing that sense of individuality, the uniqueness that makes everybody an individual? So, I've been coming to Agile for 4 years. I bring students. Some of them come back once they've graduated. Okay? Some of my students, I've encouraged them to go to different sessions, and they get a lot out of it. It's brilliant to see that as they come back, they're starting to apply the things they've learned, and getting that connection with people in industry, I think, is really important. What do you think? I've seen tweets over the last 4 years where people are going, why don't they teach this stuff in university? What's wrong with our education system? Okay. We do teach it. I was taught the precursors when I did my first degree back in 2000. I was taught some of the principles because we were looking at theories, the evolution of theories coming through at that time. And we heard this morning from the keynote about the whole the limbic system, the limbic reactions, and I do see this. I've experienced it for myself sometimes. That whole, actually, how can I recall something very quickly? How can I remember? I have sat in an interview myself, been asked some seriously challenging questions, and my mind's gone blank, and it's, oh, what the hell? And sometimes it's better to blame my education system why I didn't learn that, rather than admit that perhaps I didn't engage with it, perhaps I didn't think it was relevant, perhaps I didn't want to engage with it. Of course, we've all got different learning styles. Our challenge is certainly to understand the individual, understand the student, and try to fit the different learning styles with our teaching styles. We do adapt, we do have different ways of putting things together, but at the end of the day, we're trying to get that fusion. So, students learning. We scaffold their learning as best we can. We scaffold that learning in a number of different ways. But there is an interesting discussion to be had about what is teaching. You know, how do you teach something? We've got the different approaches that you need throughout the school system, and certainly any of you now involved perhaps with computing in schools and seeing the things that's coming through from there, it's an interesting time. There are a lot of teachers at the moment who are worried about how they're going to deliver the expectations of the new computing curriculum. So we get students who are used to the school way of doing things, the school way of teaching, but of course in the university we've got to move to that higher level of thinking, that higher level of approach. For some people, they come to university and really they shouldn't be there. They're not quite ready for that, they're not quite ready to be the independent learners. And luckily we have a number of different education providers around that do fulfil those needs. So, for those students that we're not teaching Agile, we're not teaching specific things, we need to get them through. We need to encourage them to start to challenge, to start to question. And that's my role, to challenge students, get them to think about things. That's where actually, with the rest of industry, it's really helpful. Something like this conference has been really beneficial because your tweets, the live blogs that go on, help to then reinforce and challenge what's going on. But of course the challenge, that's a bit painful, isn't it? Challenging your thinking, your concept, that can be quite painful. And perhaps some of you have done those things where you've spent a long time going off at a tangent and it's so frustrating. I have spent 3 hours like that myself and felt that was just wasted. Maybe we need to start thinking about what do we learn from that. How does that come back? I did like Melissa's tweet earlier about the learning attitude, and I think that is so important. And what's really good about this conference is reinforcing some of those things. We're going to bring that back. So, project management. I've delivered a project management module over a number of years. I don't do that one anymore. It's now handed over to my colleague. But I used to bring in my industry expertise, my experiences from my own projects that I was working on. And there were times when I've said, okay, These are the theories. We have to throw away the book. Look at what's in front of you. How are you going to react to what's in front of you? And we have to teach the theory because we're dealing with academia. We're dealing with competing theories. Our students have to know why they're using Agile. Not just be delivered Agile and say this is how you've got to do it, but they've got to understand why they've got to do it. And why is it different from Prince 2? Why is it different from the other theories, and how does that fit together? So that's the academic aspects, the academic side. We are not a training academy, we wouldn't move into those fields. There are plenty of good training academies that then help our students and industry actually progress into those skills. But sometimes I get students who want specific answers. Just tell me the answer, don't make me think, tell me the answer. I know what it's like. There's lots to do. And there are those, I see them. This is my feedback, if you like. When I'm delivering a lecture, the expressions on faces. I remember some of them well. So what I want to share with you is an outline of how we've delivered Agile over the years. As I say, Plymouth University has been teaching aspects of it right from the start. Principles of project management have been there certainly since I did my degree in 2000, my first degree. But then I want to talk about how can we start to get the links between the university and industry much better. That's certainly what I'm interested in. It's a pizza. Oh, right. Okay. Okay. So yes. After I've outlined what we do, what I'm after is some feedback from yourselves to look at how we then move that forward. Okay. So, industry support. We've been developing industry mentors, people from industry who wish to come and link with our students. This year, for the first time, we're going to start to put into the first year some sessions about what is it like to be a computing professional. What is it really like to work in an agile environment? How do you become that developer? How do you develop your own professional expertise? And that's where we invite industry connections to come in, to talk, and then to start to engage with the students. Certainly, all of us care about what we're doing. As I say, I've been coming to Agile for the last 4 years, and I see that as a very important part of the CPD, as well as the reading, as well as listening to what's happening and going on. Of course, we have placements, we have internships. I'm sure a number of you have done such things. Would you say that they're beneficial? Good. I didn't plant in there, really. And what we're looking for as well, we're looking to do is have live projects so that students get to experience the whole life cycle. Maybe some tasks that they have to do, they need to get an idea of the planning of those tasks, how long does that take. We do go through activities with them about estimation and planning, and I'm really lucky that we've got a really good Agile team on campus who do help deliver some of those sessions. Those are the people doing it every day, not just perhaps like me, who are being able to dip into it from time to time. So, right at the start, we need to get them to think about, our students to think about interacting with each other. Okay? And their hearts sing. There you go. I hate it. Problem we have is that industry is saying to us, the feedback we're getting is your students need some team skills. They need to know how to interact with each other. Of course, we have this slightly isolated situation where it's not a real context, it's not a real team, it's for marks at the end of the day, it's not for paid employment. And somehow we've got to bridge that gap. Somehow we've got to get that fusion of making it real, putting the context there, and supporting the development of those skills, which can be quite a challenge. We try that with some live projects, but we still get those who will, like in the group project, the one person who's done all the work, the one person who's turned up at the start and turned up at the finish. We try different approaches with marking so that it's individual marking, and we're looking at the process of the project management. How did they apply Agile? How did they reflect on what they did? So that's quite interesting. So if we think about theory into practice, I asked some of my colleagues who also use Agile within the delivery of their modules, I said, what are the core things that students are getting stuck on? What do they find challenging? One of the things we've noticed is that breaking down into user stories is quite a challenge. They don't always get it. Students struggle with some of that. So we're trying to work through those in more detail. One of our problems is we have a finite amount of time. There may only be 2 hours a week that we can get students to engage in the activities. They know, or we know that customer focus for Agile is quite hard, and what's really useful is the way that some of these talks have been live blogged. I can start to use those as resources for students to start to look through, trying to get understanding there. Agile is a fluid field, isn't it? There's lots of competing theories as they start to come through. We, of course, at the university, we can't focus just on one side of the discussion. We have to share with students the broad range of the discussion for them to start to make their own minds, to start to apply what they're learning there. And they have found that Agile isn't quite intuitive. There were some good tweets earlier about having a plan. A number of years ago, when I started to supervise project students, there were a number who wanted to use Agile. They hadn't quite got the idea that they needed a plan. The students who came to me had said that their idea of Agile was not to have a plan, which we all know doesn't quite work. So we do introduce these things to them to do within the second year and the final stage, so that they start to apply it. And we have it not only in the skill of computing, but the digital arts degrees also apply the Agile approach. And I've mentioned about third year projects. They have those options to use Agile, but they also have the options to use other project management methodologies should they choose, but they have to justify why. And what we're aiming to see is that they're choosing an appropriate methodology for what they're trying to achieve. So we deliver the theory, we share with them the resources, we try to get them to engage with the field around them, the industry. We then have to get them to put it into practice. This year we've had to change our degrees, we've had to rewrite just about everything. We have a curriculum enrichment project going on, and it's a whole big bang approach starting this September. So the modules have changed. We've made sure that contemporary tools go in each time. I mean, each time we do a module, we have a retrospective. Each time we do something, we analyse and critique. And students are our harshest critics. We work out what did we do wrong, and we factor that in. But now with the changes through our enrichment project, we've started to put some extra things in. So our second years, they've got to have some team working, but we've cut down on the amount that we had. There was one situation where a student would end up with 5 group work projects in one term, which was unacceptable, really. So whilst we've reduced the amount of group working, we've tried to make sure that the team working going in the second year is more robust and that there's more activity about Agile practices. The standard coding modules, we're making sure that they've got access to the tools for test-driven development and the approaches that we want them to start to develop. Certainly they're used to, in the project modules, students are expected to make use of Trello or Pivotal Tracker, starting to look at the tasks that they need to carry out. And then there is a choice for those who wish to develop their skills in further project management. They've got that option in the final stage of looking at the theoretical underpinnings within the field. So I've mentioned our curriculum enrichment project. We're starting right at the start in the first term. Students will only have one module. So 4 weeks of studying and then picking up how do they interact with each other. Starting to pick up the principles of TDD and BDD. So I've mentioned the second year with our emphasis on tools and theories, and then the final stage. So we kept where we were going, the principles that we had, we analysed what was appropriate, and then fed that through into the changes. But what I'm now interested in is how do we engage further with industry? Got industry mentors. I'm looking for specific tasks and activities and projects to use in the live projects module and the work-based learning module. What I'd like to ask the floor is, are there what opinions do you have about then how we can engage better with industry? So over to you. Not entirely, no. I get students to start to look at it, and I have had students who have been part of the open source community. I regret in some ways not being able to draw them back into the university to disseminate what they were doing and share with that. But yes, I like that idea. Well, we're Plymouth. We're sort of on the border. And not necessarily. Not necessarily. Usually when we're engaging with industry mentors, we are lucky. We've got some really good communities and workplaces around Plymouth themselves. But I see no problem with the remote style of interaction at all, if we can make it work. So at the moment, they will come in and when they can, they will give perhaps a guest lecture. Usually I'm trying to pick up what's right for the person who's offering their time, because I can't pay them for their time, but I can give them a lunch or something like that. So they may come, they may give an hour. We might get a lecture theatre full of students. Certainly we've used guest lectures to a good intent. But then there is also the more interpersonal sort of interactions. There are those who say, well, if you've got students who wish to learn more about my specific field, I'm happy to have email correspondence with them. So that's one way we've done it. Yeah. So an industry mentor for specific teamwork. That's good. Yes. Yeah. I'd quite like to pick your brain some more on that and how that might work. Yeah, how we can actually start to put that on more effectively.
It does, yeah. There's going to be, like I say, it's a commitment across a year.
Yes. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
Already a movement in creating right practices for everybody for free as well.
Yes.
Craftsmanship workshops are pretty much always.
But where are they held? Where are the grassroots workshops held? Where? I mean, location, I think, is can sometimes be an issue. I haven't yet seen some of those activities predominantly within the Plymouth area. I know we have the beer and banter in Plymouth. I unfortunately have never been able to get there, but yes, I encourage my students to sign up to the meetups to get involved with the grassroots movements. One of the issues I think with beer and banter is the fact that it's got beer. Now, I don't drink beer. I like a drink, but I don't drink beer. I do have students who don't drink. Full stop. And then there are times when actually going into a bar environment can be quite intimidating. So it'd be good to see more grassroots things popping up that can then help fulfil that need. And I think you're exactly right in that, that's part of the big picture that we've got.
It's similar event that Plymouth Westwood runs, the Agile One Business event, which he does once a month, so it might be, they used to go to that occasionally, and there's never any other students who turn up, so it might be worth asking out. I don't know whether you do that or...
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So we have Agile meetups within the university and outside of the university, which do help. Sometimes, I mean, it's really good when someone takes the initiative to start up one of those groups, but unfortunately when they move on, then there's often gaps left. But yes, we do disseminate the meetups.
Is it something you can support? Is it something you want to set up to meet up? Like one of the challenges can be having a venue.
Yes. Well, that's what we did with the Agile. The Agile meetup. We were very lucky that Mike Westwood took that on, and then we managed to get we did fudge getting rooms in the university. Yeah, we've hosted Dig Pen. I don't know if those of you have come across the Dig Pen conferences within the Southwest. We've been very lucky that we've had some key individuals who will help put on a small, is it termed an unconference? An unconference. Unconference. So where speakers will give their time, and there isn't a charge for the conference. And the university has supported that by providing a venue, by providing the infrastructure for recording it and disseminating it. Okay. Is there anything else? Thank you very much for your time. I hope that I've given you some idea that universities do teach Agile, and I welcome your comments, and thank you.